In this video, I'm going to discuss 6 meaningful movies in my collection. Hey, it's me, AP, aka Mr. Movie Cheer, and welcome back to another video. So, meaningful movies in my collection, that is the topic of this video. And this is a video on meaningful movies. What does that mean? I think for me, it means a movie that has some sort of an attachment, maybe like a story that is individual to you, has some sort of value. I think it just has a movie that has some sort of connection to you mentally, that you had an experience of watching it at the time, you just some sort of memory of some sort. And these are all meaningful movies to me personally. So you may see these movies in this list and you may think, wow, I have no attachment to these movies, but for me, there's always a little story behind them. Certain movies, especially in the collection here, I always try to keep most of the movies in. They're either movies I really enjoy watching or movies that have some meaningful value to me. So I thought it'd just be good to deep dive into some meaningful movies today that are sitting in the collection behind me. So let's deep dive in to the topic. So the first meaningful movie I want to discuss is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, why is this movie a meaningful movie for me? For me, growing up, I used to always watch the original Star Wars movies. Absolutely loved the originals, still to this day. But growing up in like the 90s, then it got announced they were doing like the Episode 1, they were doing the prequel trilogy. And I just remember The Phantom Menace being so huge at the time. I remember like back in school, like hearing about all like the talk about it, and then obviously it gets released, and it's a massive movie for a kid. I know people have certain opinions about this movie. Some people like it, some people don't. Look, I will say the prequels, for what they are, they're enjoyable. But I do enjoy the original trilogy a lot more. And I enjoy what they're doing more so with the Disney Plus TV shows, with The Mandalorian, stuff like that at the moment. But for me, still, there's a lot of meaning for, like, when I look at this movie, when I look at this in the collection, it just takes me back to when I was a kid. And I remember like people having like the pencil cases, the Star Wars Phantom Menace pencil cases and stuff like that. It was just silly things. And I mean, like I think it was like KFC. They had all like the cups and stuff for the merch when it was coming out the movie. And I just remember the hype around the time for that movie, very similar to when The Force Awakens came out. But it was just a thing, growing up and seeing obviously this property, Star Wars, what was huge at the time. But to see the prequels, it become even more bigger, and then it's just all little memories attached to this movie. So it's a good movie. I think the villain in it, Darth Maul, could have been used better, and he could have been used throughout the trilogy. It would have been nice, but it didn't happen. But look, still, there's a lot of meaning connected to this movie for me, and that's why it's in my movie collection as a meaningful movie. So the next movie I want to discuss is Judge Dredd, the one with Stallone in. That's it, Sly Stallone. And why is this a meaningful movie to me? Well, this was one really just looking through the collection today for this video. We're just seeing this movie. I really like the film. I think it's a really decent movie. But I remember going into like to the video shop when I was a kid. And again, goes back to like a childhood memory of going into the video shop, VHS store if you live in North America. But it was just, I always remember seeing Judge Dredd, and I must have like asked one of my parents at the time, like, can we rent this out? And I can't really recall whether we did rent it or whatnot, but I'm sure we did. But I always just remember seeing that Judge Dredd like video in the video shop, and it was like run by like a family-run video shop in the back of like a sweet shop, and it was just cool. But it just brought back the memory of seeing that on the shelf in the video shop, the Judge Dredd movie, and it just adds. It's like a little memory attached to the movie, which I really like, and it's just brings back a whole host of little memories, which I think is really cool. So that is my second choice of a meaningful movie, and film well worth checking out as well if you've not seen Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone. So the next movie I want to discuss is Guardians of the Galaxy. Now this was a massive shift in the MCU, and watching this for the first time, I was like just amazed by how different it was to the likes of Iron Man, Captain America, all the other Marvel properties that came prior to this film. It was going into space, and you've seen these very different characters and very, like non-superhero characters as well at the same time. But what amazed me the most was the humour and the comedy in this. And James Gunn just nailed it he had a great cast with Chris Pratt and Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista. That cast, along with obviously Vin Diesel and Bradley Cooper as Rocket and as Groot, respectively, and it was just a comedy value from the first scene where Star-Lord is dancing around and stuff in that cave. It was just so different for me, and I remember watching it in the cinema at the time and just thinking, wow, this is so different, but this is the movie I was looking for. This is the sort of movie that I am really up for seeing. I'm really looking forward to seeing this. And I think even as well, before that, I always think of the memories of the trailers before, because I think certain trailers really pop with me sometimes. There's only certain ones over the past couple of years that have really popped with me, because I feel some of them, movie trailers feel a bit generic and feel the samey same. It doesn't really offer much difference, but the trailer with the song Hooked on a Feeling was just so memorable. It was a great trailer, and it was kind of the memories for this and the meaning around this is because I really love the film. I think it's a really great film, a great MCU movie. But I think of the trailers, how much I enjoyed the trailers, and I think about the experience of watching it in the cinema and just laughing just at how good it was. And it was just a really different film. I absolutely love this, and it's just, to me, it's a meaningful movie. And I remember getting this as a DVD. I think it got it for like one Christmas or a birthday, I think it was. But I was so pleased when I got this, and I was just like, oh, this is amazing. So there's a lot of meaning around this, from the trailer, from the release, and it's just all around good vibes for this movie. Fantastic film. Next up on my list of meaningful movies is The Scorpion King, starring The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, or The Rock as he was just known then. So this was the movie, we had The Mummy Returns. Basically, The Rock, if you don't know, big time wrestler in the WWE or WWF, probably when it was known. Now, I think it probably was WWE back then, but basically, Rock, one of the biggest wrestlers of all time, like huge name back in like the mid to late 90s and early 2000s, decides to embark on this career of Hollywood. And, turns out he's super successful at it now 20 years on. And it has took him some time. The early years, I wouldn't say he was like a top level actor at first, but now he is the main guy in Hollywood. Now, I think we can all agree with that when it comes to action movies, comedy movies. The Rock is the guy you go to. But this was, he done the Mummy Returns, basically, which introduced this character, the Scorpion King. And then it was like there was bits where he filmed it in person, but then there was really bad CGI, like Scorpion King. If you check out online, it's really bad. But I remember the meaningful movie and why this is a meaningful movie for me. So this was released then after The Mummy Returns. But for me, it connects me to wrestling because I'm a huge wrestling fan and huge fan of The Rock. And I always remember watching this film and just being amazed to seeing this guy who had watched in the ring and cutting these promos for years. Now he's got this wig on. He's in ancient Egypt and he's the Scorpion King. And it was just surreal to see it. And I'm not saying this is the best movie ever because it is it is definitely not the best movie in the world. I think it's a fun movie. I think it's a fun action movie. I think if you like the Mummy movies, I think you'll definitely like this. But I think for me, there's a lot of meaning because it's The Rock's first big time solo movie on his own. He's the main star. And it just brings me back to times when I enjoyed, when I was a kid and when wrestling was super, a big part of my life. And it still is a big part, but as a kid, they were like superheroes to me. And even some of them are now, but I think when you're a kid, things are heightened. And I think with the WWF Attitude Era, The Rock was just a mega star. And just I loved playing with the wrestling figures, the video games, and then seeing this guy go into Hollywood then, I thought it was awesome. And that's why it's got a lot of meaning attached to this film for me. So the next movie I want to discuss is Kingpin, starring Woody Harrelson, Randy Quaid, and Vanessa Angel. Now, this also stars Bill Murray as well. Wow. Why is this a meaningful movie? Look, I will say I had a bunch of movies that were kind of like in rotation as a kid, and it would be like Cool Runnings, it would be The Lion King, it would be Dumb and Dumber, Forrest Gump, and Kingpin. I'm sure there probably was other ones in there as well, like Up and Under was a UK film I really enjoyed. But Kingpin is, again, another one in that group of films that was in like a rotation for me as a kid, which I would watch constantly. Kingpin basically is a story of like amateur bowling, like an amateur bowler or a semi-professional bowler in like state championships and stuff like that. And it's just like this guy who's like a really successful 10-pin bowler, and then he has an accident, and then years later his life's went to really a bad place, and he's just like drinking and stuff like this, and he decides to get back into 10-pin bowling and becomes like a coach, a trainer, and then he eventually gets back into it himself, and he's got like a rubber hand, the main guy, played by Woody Harrelson. It's just an all-out comedy, basically. It's by from the directors of There's Something About Mary. I think it's pretty sure it's the Farrelly brothers, is it? Maybe this one? I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm incorrect. Peter Farrelly, I'm Bobby Farrelly. Probably butchering that name. But yeah, it is a Farrelly brothers movie. It is just a film that makes you just laugh hysterically, Kingpin. It's got a killer soundtrack as well. Superb soundtrack. Some great songs in there. But yeah, it's just a feel-good comedy movie. And I love this. It brings me back to when I was a kid. Should call this childhood meaningful movies. That would be a better topic title, but yeah, just Kingpin. If you've never watched Kingpin, give it a watch, and I hope you get some meaningful memories of watching this, and it gives you some really joyful moments when watching this. So the last movie I'm going to discuss is Rogue One, the Star Wars story, the spin-off of the Star Wars movies, and this is the movie that is set before A New Hope, really like probably directly before New Hope. This was the first spin-off movie, and then we had the solo one. Look, I think this is a fantastic film. Upon rewatch more recently as well, I just really am super fond of this film. I think it's a great spin-off film. I think as well, I look at what they're doing with the Star Wars TV show side of things now, and I think looking at this, there's a lot of inspiration and direction taken from this. There's a bit more of a grittier world to see within this, and I think they have put that more onto the TV side of things, which I think is a good idea. But I think the main reason why this movie is such a meaningful movie for me is because of the end scene. Now, if I think we're beyond spoilers now for Star Wars stuff at this point. It's been out for years, so I'm not even going to say spoilers, but I am going to say spoilers, but I'm not going to give you a spoiler warning. But at the end of this movie, we see Darth Vader truly become... I think if you ever felt like Darth Vader became soft, the end of this movie just takes away that softness and really makes this guy seem like a really big-time villain. He's got his lightsaber out at the end of the movie, and he's just laying waste to rebel troops, and he's just destroying them all in this hallway. And with the music in there, which the music is great by Michael Giacchino, just the sinister Vader action here is just that is the main meaningful moment in the movie for me. That movie, the rest of the movie could be garbage, and they could give me that one scene, and I'd be like, yes, that is amazing. Thankfully, the movie is great as well. It's a great story throughout the movie, but the end moment just makes it. It's just like the cherry on top of a great cake. Superb cake, and that's why Rogue One is such a meaningful movie for me. As a Star Wars fan, it reignited the passion and the fandom for me as a fan of Star Wars. And there's a lot of added meaning there where you see a Darth Vader, who I think is one of the biggest and baddest villains in movie history. We just see him shown as this big bad villain. He's not shown as a good guy. He's not shown as a guy being good or bad, in between. He's shown as the bad guy. And I love that. I think it's great. And I think it was a perfect ending to a really good movie. So that is my final pick of meaningful movies in my collection. If you enjoyed this video today, please do give it a like and check out the rest of the movie related content on the channel, and let me know your thoughts on this video topic today. What are your favourite meaningful movies in your collection, and what do you think of the meaningful movies in my collection? Are any of these do you have the same sort of feelings and value towards these films? Do you have like attachments to these films, or what are the movies that you have some sort of a memory or an attachment to? Let me know all your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to spread a bit of movie cheer, and as always, I will see you next time.